explain a little bit about fouls and double hits and push shots. This is something that comes up a lot. People just don't understand what's going on. So here we're going to try to demonstrate and show a couple of key components that I'm looking for if I'm called to watch a hit, or if you ever have to try to judge a double hit. First of all, if two balls are touching, if the cue ball is touching your object ball, you can basically do any normal stroke. These two balls will act like one, and if I hit a normal stroke, they'll leave at the same time. I don't have to worry about a double hit. So any normal hit, that's not a double hit because they were touching. Where I have to worry about it is if there's a gap. Doesn't matter how small it could be down to like a 32nd of an inch or something. As long as there's a gap, now I have to worry about a double hit. If they are touching and you have another ball sitting there where it will stop and there's a gap, you have to worry about a double hit here too, or a similar situation. If it happens to be going towards a rail and you're really close to the rail, you can still hit the cue ball, and then cue ball leaves and your tip follows through and hits the cue ball a second time. That's a foul. Same thing like if you have that gap. Now we'll explain a little bit about the double hits and how you can judge it. So, instead of using a really tiny spot, I'm going to spread it out so you can actually see what's happening and the physics behind this. So, if I hit this cue ball and it hits the one, a lot of the energy from the cue ball is going to get transferred to the one, and the one takes off. The problem is the cue ball stopped, and now if I follow through with my cue, I could hit the cue ball a second time. That's the foul. So, if I do it normally, or if I do it correctly, what you're going to see is I'll hit the cue ball is going to hit the one's going to take off, the cue ball is going to have its follow, and it's going to take off afterwards, but it's going to do it at a different speed. It's going to be slower, and there's going to be a delay between when the cue ball starts moving forward again after hitting the one. So you see that the one took off fast, the cue ball momentarily paused, and then started to follow. I will do that again just so you can kind of see what's happening. So it kind of pauses and then momentarily kind of follows right afterwards. Now, if I were to follow through, you'll see a different behavior. I'm going to hit the cue ball, it hits the one takes off, but I'm going to hit the cue ball again because I followed way through and hit it accidentally twice, and you're going to see that it seems to take off at about the same speed as the one and just keeps going. So that's a double hit, and we didn't see that pause that we had before. Now where this becomes a big issue is not necessarily when I'm demonstrating like this, but when they're very close. It doesn't matter, like I said, if it's the tiniest gap or even up to an inch or two or whatever. But if I do this correctly and I hit a follow, that cue ball is going to go through at a different speed afterwards, and that's a good hit. But if I have a little gap and they go at the same time, that was pretty much a double hit. They're traveling at virtually the same speed. I hit the cue ball, it stopped. I hit it again to make it go. Ways that you can avoid this, you see sometimes people are saying like elevate or something. That's not necessarily true because I could actually have a small gap and elevate, but if the cue ball protrudes through that one ball and then even it checks up out here, like with draw, it's still double hit to get there. So even though it went through and slowed down, it basically went through where that space the one was occupying, and it was a double hit. There was no way that it could go through at the same speed to start with. So that's kind of what you're judging for. If you want to avoid a double hit, you could basically, if it's really close, you can cut at an angle, and that gives the cue ball a chance to deflect or carry them out of the way. It's angle from the other side. There are a couple tricks where with a small gap, you can kind of line up where your hand will hit your hip and kind of stop it from following through. So I could actually hit this kind of solid, but actually, that was pretty soft. But you could actually stop your hand some way artificially. I've seen the same thing done where you might line up close and use your hand against the table. So I could line up so where I just barely close to the ball with my finger down, and then basically hit my hand against the table and try to get a follow without double hitting. But there's some artificial ways to kind of stop. I'm just trying to give you a basic idea. Alright, hopefully this helps. Hopefully you understand better what double hits are and can avoid them if they come up in a game. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.